Greetings and welcome to Board Game Science. I'm Dr. Poitras. Greetings. Welcome to Board Game Science. I am Dr. Poitras, a biology professor at Houghton University, and I'm here with Nathaniel to help me out today as we talk about Forrest Shuffle, a game designed by Kosh, distributed by Lookout Games, with some distribution help from Asmodee, and art by Tony Labette and Judith Paella. I'm excited to talk about this. This is a great game. So let's first talk about how it's played. So this is how Forrest Shuffle sort of gets set up. I've set it up as if the game is already running a little bit so that I can demonstrate some of the aspects to you. But the setup is really easy, really simple. You put out this long board here called the clearing, and each player gets a cave, which they may or may not use depending on some of the cards they use. And then they get a hand of 6 cards. Basically, and then you go from there. And the gameplay is really simple. On your turn, you do 2 things. You draw 2 cards, either from a large deck, like the one over here, or from the clearing. And so you could take one from the clearing and one from the deck, or some combination thereof. And then once you have done that, then you play a single card down in front of you, and you pay the cost of that card. And then that's basically it. Then you continue until you run out of time or cards, and there's various ways for ending the game. And then at the end of the game, the player who's accumulated the most points wins the game. So let's take a look at kind of how cards get played. So you'll notice if you look at these cards, there's a lot of information on these cards. There's a lot going on here, so I'm just going to try and describe some of what's there. But the basic idea is you're creating a forest, kind of a forest ecosystem, that is centered around trees. And so I've got 3 trees here. And every time you play a tree down, you have to pay its cost. And so the cost for all the cards is noted up here in the upper left-hand corner. So the cost for this card is 2, this one is also 2, and this one over here is 1. That is in cards. The cost is in cards. So you'll have to discard from your hand however many cards are required by the card that you're laying down. And so those discards go right here into the clearing, which creates some really interesting tactical decisions, because anything you lay down in the clearing could then be picked up by your opponent as well. And so you want to be careful about what you're laying down. And anything you're laying down is a card that you can't use later on. So there's this big struggle, this tension between, well, which are the cards that I really value for their points and which are the cards that I feel like I can get rid of. Once you've got a tree down, each tree has 4 spots around it that an organism or another card can go. And so you'll notice that I've got 2 cards here on this tree and 2 cards here on this tree that are in different spots, and there's no cards yet on this tree here. So there's 4 different spots, and once those 4 spots are filled, then the tree is considered to be full. So when it comes to the cards that go on the trees, all the cards have decision points. So you'll notice this card here is split down the middle vertically. Some of them are split vertically, some of them are split horizontally. And so the direction that they're split tells you something about where they can go on a tree. So for example, this card here could go only on the top or bottom, whereas one that is split vertically could only go on the left or right. And when you do that, when you place the card, let's say this one has to go on the bottom, you hide, like that, whatever is on the top. Or if I were to put this one on the top, I would hide whatever's on the bottom. So again, you can only pick one scoring opportunity for this particular card. So you'll also notice that each of the cards has some symbols on it that designate types. So this one here has got an orange little leaf, as well as a couple of other items there. And those come into kind of bonuses that you can get. So you score points based on these acorns here, and some things allow you to do extra little bonuses as well. So for example, let's say I wanted to play down this European badger here. So you'll notice that it cost me 1 card, but you'll notice this extra thing here, this orange binoculars icon. So that means that I get the bonus here automatically. So this card, when played down, will score me 2 points at the end of the game. However, if when I place this card down, I pay for it with an orange colored card, then I also get to do this bonus action. In this case, this action means that I get to play a card with this type for free. So let's see here. So if I put this down, it's got to go on this side here. Put it down there, and let's see. There we go. I've got an orange symbol card here. So if I pay with this card, that means now I can look through and find another animal with this type. So let's say maybe this European hare or this European hare here. I can play that for free now because of that bonus action. So there's a couple of synergistic things like that that help you to move along more quickly or find ways to gather more points. But all in all, that's generally how it works. There's a couple extra rules around placement and hand limits and those kinds of things. But that's basically the way it plays. You keep playing down trees and filling those trees with other animals or plants that kind of go around and subsist around the tree as you do that. So that's how the game is played. So those are the basics of how it's played. So let's talk a little bit about the science behind it and what's going on here. There's a lot to like about this game. The artwork is fantastic and on point. And there's a couple of things about this that I think make it a bit more accurate than some of the other kinds of games in this area. So one of the things that I really like that matches on with the realism is the animal limit per tree. So a particular tree really only has enough resources, realistically, to provide for a limited number of animals. You can't just have one tree that supports thousands and thousands and thousands of animals. So I like that idea of there are limitations, as there are in the real world in terms of resources and what they can provide for. The second thing is that some animals don't get along with other animals. And so by placing one animal, you are necessarily excluding another kind of animal or something like that. And so there's a realism there to the actual situation, that some animals, by being in a particular niche or an area, means that other animals can't be there. So that's really good. The other thing that's nice about this is that we finally get some extension, some exploration of some of the lesser known organisms. So yes, there are plenty of your well-known mammals and those kinds of things, bears and foxes and deer and that. But we finally have specific kinds of plants too, like strawberry or blackberry bushes. We get moss, some insects, including butterflies, different kinds of birds, even some mushrooms. So it's nice to see those things finally recognized, that these are parts, important parts of actual ecosystems. The other thing that's kind of cool is that there are a few examples of scoring opportunities that are somewhat realistic animal pairings. For example, the fox and the hare. So for every fox that you've got, you score more points if there are more hares, more rabbits, which makes sense, right? The foxes are going to do better if there's a higher abundance of rabbits around for them for food in general. And so I like that. Now, the downside of all of that is that not all of the things work that way, and not everything is matched on quite perfectly. So, for example, even though there are more types of organisms, including mushrooms and insects and birds, there's no representation of anything that's microscopic. So no bacteria, anything like that, which actually makes up a significant portion of the ecosystem. And I understand that, right, because it's hard to illustrate things that you can't really see with the naked eye anyway. And although some of the kind of the bonuses or the powers or the points do sort of make sense with the animals, it feels like most of the point scoring systems are driven by the game mechanics, not by the actual animals themselves. And so the particular score for a thing doesn't really match onto any unique aspect or characteristic of the animal that it's associated with. And then the other kind of thing that would have been nice to see but is not really here is, I mentioned before that by placing one animal, it necessarily excludes a different kind of animal. It would have been nice to see those kind of match up with each other better. So for example, a fox eats a rabbit, and so it'd be cool to have the fox and the rabbit on the same card. So if you place a fox, that means you can't place the rabbit with the same card. Or the rabbits are always on the same side, so that by placing a fox under one tree, you can no longer place a rabbit under the same tree because the two of them wouldn't be there together. The fox would hunt the rabbit. You'd have to place rabbits under other trees. So that kind of an interaction would have been nice to see a little bit more of. But all in all, there's still a lot of really good kind of aspects of the science here that I think can create some really good learning opportunities and conversation as well. I've got some fun animals here that I enjoy. And Nathaniel, do you have a particular animal that you really liked in this set? Your animal's not here? Oh, you like the dermestids. Yeah, of course. The dermestids are his favorite. It's an insect that cleans bones, eats the flesh off of bones. So that is understandable. And I am sorry that they did not include that here for you. Oh well. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me for this take a look at Forrest Shuffle, and hopefully we'll catch you for the next video.